The Galactic Naval Academy had stood for 3,000 years, its crystalline spires reaching toward the stars like frozen lightning. Within its halls, the greatest military minds of 47 species had been forged, shaped by traditions as immutable as the laws of physics themselves. Until Cadet Sarah Chen arrived. Commander Vexthul observed the human from his elevated platform, his 4 amber eyes tracking her movement through the tactical simulation. The Corvani officer's chitinous exoskeleton clicked disapprovingly as he watched her navigate the training scenario in ways that defied all conventional wisdom. Cadet Chen, his voice resonated through the chamber's speakers, carrying the weight of millennia of military protocol. You have deviated from standard formation Delta 7. Explain yourself. Sarah paused in the simulation chamber, her small frame dwarfed by the holographic battlefield around her. The other cadets, a towering Thraxian, 2 graceful Alari twins, and a crystalline Zephyrite, watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to horror. Sir, Sarah said, her voice clear despite the tremor of nervousness. I was wondering, why is Delta 7 considered optimal? The chamber fell silent. Commander Vexthul's mandibles clicked once, a sound that had made countless cadets quake in fear. In 3 millennia of instruction, no one had questioned the formations. They simply were, as eternal as the Academy itself. Because, Vexthul replied slowly, it has been proven effective across 10,000 engagements. But sir, Sarah persisted, and the other cadets shifted uncomfortably. Proven effective against whom? In what circumstances? The tactical database shows these formations were developed during the Hegemony Wars, but modern threats are completely different. Why haven't the formations evolved? The Corvani commander's exoskeleton darkened, a sign of deep agitation. Cadet Chen, you will execute formation Delta 7 as instructed. With respect, sir, but why? That single word hung in the air like a toxin. The Thraxian cadet, Gorthak, took an involuntary step backward. The Alari twins exchanged glances of pure terror. Even the Zephyrite's crystalline form dimmed with anxiety, but Sarah stood her ground, her brown eyes bright with genuine curiosity. I'm not trying to be insubordinate, sir. I just want to understand the reasoning behind our tactics. If we're going to be officers, shouldn't we understand why we do what we do? Commander Vexthul felt something crack in his mind, not painfully but like ice breaking in spring. In his 4 centuries of service, he had never questioned the formations either. They simply existed, handed down from instructor to cadet in an unbroken chain of tradition. The formations are, he began, then stopped. Why were they optimal? He had memorized their execution, their historical usage, their theoretical applications. But the underlying principles, the reasoning behind their development, when had he last considered that? Sir? Sarah's voice was gentle now, sensing the commander's uncertainty. Class dismissed, Vexthul announced abruptly. All cadets except Chen. The other species fled with obvious relief, leaving the human alone with the increasingly agitated Corvani. Vexthul descended from his platform, his massive form looming over the diminutive cadet. Do you understand what you have done? He asked, his voice barely controlled. Sarah straightened her shoulders. I asked a question, sir. You have questioned 3,000 years of military tradition. Yes, sir, I have. Vexthul stared at her for a long moment. Then, to Sarah's amazement, he began to laugh, a sound like grinding metal that she had never heard a Corvani make. 3,000 years, he repeated, and no one, not one cadet, from 47 species, has ever asked why. Over the following weeks, Sarah's simple question spread through the academy like a virus. Cadets began questioning everything. Why their ships were designed with such massive crews when smaller teams might be more efficient. Why their weapon systems followed patterns established before half the current species had achieved spaceflight. Why their entire military doctrine assumed large-scale fleet engagements when modern conflicts were predominantly asymmetrical. The faculty tried to maintain order, but the damage was done. The Alari tactical instructor found herself unable to explain why their stealth protocols hadn't been updated in 8 centuries. The Zephyrate engineering professor discovered that many of their fundamental principles were based on obsolete assumptions about enemy capabilities. Admiral Korthaz, the Academy's Thraxian commandant, summoned Sarah to his office on a Tuesday morning. The massive being sat behind a desk carved from a single piece of meteor iron, his tusks gleaming in the artificial light. "Cadet Chen," he rumbled, "you have created chaos in my academy." "I'm sorry, sir, I only wanted to understand." "Do not apologize," the Admiral interrupted. "Do you know what our greatest weakness has been in recent conflicts?" Sarah considered carefully. "Inflexibility, sir." "Precisely. We have been fighting tomorrow's wars with yesterday's tactics because no one dared to ask why we did things the way we did." Korthaz leaned forward. "Your species has been part of the galactic community for barely 2 centuries, yet you have identified a flaw that has plagued us for millennia. What happens now, sir?" The Admiral's laugh was a sound like distant thunder. "Now, Cadet Chen, we rebuild. We question everything, examine every assumption, and create something new. You humans have a saying, do you not? The only stupid question is the one not asked." Sarah nodded. "Then we shall ask questions. All of them." Within 6 months, the Galactic Naval Academy had transformed. Ancient protocols were dissected and rebuilt. Tactical doctrines were reimagined. The rigid hierarchy that had stifled innovation for 3 millennia began to crack and reshape itself. And at the center of it all was one human cadet who had dared to ask the most dangerous question in the universe. Why? The Academy didn't crumble in the way its critics had feared. Instead, it shed its crystalline shell, like a molting insect, and emerged as something stronger, more adaptive, more alive. All because someone had finally asked why.